Thundercats! Welcome to Measure of an Episode. As you know, this is Measure of an Episode, where our continuing mission,
as you know,
is to explore whether a Star Trek episode is a proper Star Trek episode and not just good or bad TV. And my name is Paul.
And I'm Jonathan, and we are basing it on 3 criteria. The first one is whether or not there's any sci-fi inherent to the plot. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the second one. Is that the second one? Anyway.
Yeah, no,
one
that's
of the
the
two.
First one. That's number 1.
Is there something sci-fi inherent to the plot? And then the second one, is there some kind of moral or ethical thread that runs through the episode? Or is presented in a way that inspires conversation? And the third one, we leave it to you.
It's up to you,
dear listeners.
And if you email us your third criteria,
you will be the first.
That will be the first email we have ever gotten. No, we will read it on air at some point.
Oh, yeah.
In the future.
I like it.
Yeah. We can't read it on this one because we haven't gotten our email yet.
And because we're recording it right this moment. And if you haven't sent we do not have the powers of time control.
And if you're listening to this episode as we're recording it.
All right, so we watched Aquiel, Season 6, Episode 13 of TNG. And the blurb says, murderous intrigue abounds for the Enterprise when one of the crew aboard a subspace communication station is believed dead. And yeah, that blurb kind of gives away a little bit of a twist, but
it doesn't give it away. I mean, she is believed. Actually, no, she's confirmed dead until she shows up later in the episode.
Until she's suddenly all better, right?
Because they immediately start going through her shit, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they found her gooey residue mixed in with the hull plating. So you know they were like, she's not only dead, she's been like blended.
Which Worf immediately wants to start shooting at with his phaser. But I think it's weird because they're like, this is definitely like organic material that's been infused with this deck plating. We don't know really what it is, but we're going to go ahead and assume it's this person, even though there were other people on the station. Like, I don't know why they immediately assumed it was her. It's weird. And they just like, they fought over who could get into her room to start going through her stuff.
Yeah. And just to speak in broad strokes, like I don't feel like this episode would have been nearly as cringy if it wasn't Geordi and Riker like working together on this. Like if it had been Geordi and Worf or Geordi and Data or Geordi and Picard, like, you know, it would, but the fact that it was like the womanizer and like the cringy guy who falls in love with holodeck programs, like
which he did again.
Yep.
Like, so what's her name comes up, like he's trying to get to her logs, right? And she's like, I'm just trying really hard. Like he's got to do a bunch of techno babble stuff, and then she finally comes up, and then immediately you can see Geordi fall in love.
Yeah, I know.
By the way, so when Riker, so we talked about this when we were talking about the thumbnail on Netflix. This was like this is that moment. The last thing that I was expecting when Riker says, "Hey, Geordi, you should come take a look at this." The absolute last thing I was expecting. I would have been less surprised had it been Picard in there than a dog.
So really quick, so the episode's called Aquiel. This episode almost had an original series name. Like style name. It was almost called Murder My Pet. Like murder, comma, my pet. Like
oh, that's so lame. I'm glad they didn't do that.
That would have been so great. Like 6th season, like they are riding high and they're like, next time on Star Trek The Next Generation, Murder My Pet.
I want to know who vetoed it. You know,
right?
Or who suggested it?
Yeah, like how long was it being bandied about before they were like, wait a minute, what are we?
Well, yeah, who suggested it and who replaced that person immediately afterward?
Right.
Oh, that's a terrible name. But yeah, I mean, also it would have given away that moment. Like it was a shocking moment. It was a shocking moment.
Right. And yeah. I mean, there's no mention of a dog there at all. Like not in the blurb, not anything before that. Right. I
mean, I think it's really the only animal that I can ever remember other than Spot on the show. Is there ever another animal?
Like a pet animal?
A real animal. Like not a Gondorian flea.
Which is actually just another dog.
They look like dogs. But it's a flea. Mark my words.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, not off the top of my head. I mean, I know that there is one in Enterprise, obviously, but I don't.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
It was just very strange. It was very strange to me.
Right.
I feel sorry for this dog the whole time.
Well, you shouldn't.
I know. I shouldn't. I did not see that. I did not see the end coming until until the scene where the dog is revealed as being the shapeshifter thing. I didn't think of it. It did not occur to me. Did it occur to you?
No, it didn't occur to me that the dog was a shapeshifter until like the moment before where the camera angle stayed on the dog when he was like, what's the matter with you? Get out of here. And then it followed him, and I was like, oh, yep. That's definitely that's the killer right there.
Yeah. So anyway, Geordi is doing this thing. They always do this with Geordi. I don't think there's an example of this with another character, another next gen character, where he's doing sleuthing by talking to the computer. I can think of at least 2 or 3 other examples of this where he's trying to sort something out by saying, computer, show me something that is like this, but also like this. Like he's always talking to the computer by himself, right?
Mm-hmm. You're saying where like he tweaks the requests by talking to the computer, not as in he's talking to the video, right? Okay.
No, he's just troubleshooting something.
Okay.
He's like and I guess they gave that to him because he's really good at it. He does a good job, sort of not making it feel awkward, as though he does this all the time. Even though he's talking to no one.
Right. Well, Data does it too. I mean, he did it in the Quality of Life quite a bit.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
The one with the technodromes.
You're right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Withdrawn.
I mean, they might be the only 2 that do it, and it. I
guess those 2 characters are the most science fiction-y characters. So I guess it makes the most sense that they would be doing that the most.
Right.
Geordi and Data, who happen to be best friends.
It works out great.
Then there's the Muskin Sea Punch.
Oh God. I thought she was calling it Pudge. I didn't hear Punch. And so I was like, I wonder if Paul is really going to like this, because that's not a thing. Like Muskin Sea Pudge, like that Pudge isn't a word of food. So, where she's like, I just miss it so much, and where like the seeds are fresh, and then I saw him take the drink over to her, and he says something about, or she said something about it being Muskin Sea Punch, and I was like, oh, it's Punch. That's not nearly as exciting.
See, okay, there's only one situation where I would be okay with them putting a alien name in front of an Earth something, right? Mm-hmm. Is if, like we just said with the fleas and the dogs, if it was something entirely different, if it looked like a hamburger. If Muskin Sea Punch looked like a hamburger, right, I would be totally okay with it if they did that every single time. Or
like, what if it was like it was a drink, but it's served in like a soaked Nerf ball, and you have to suck the juice out of it.
Or like the way that they drink stuff is through their buttholes. That would be fine too.
So they just all eating, so they just grab the food and sit on it, and then they can just continue their conversation.
There's like, oh! You're right, this is nice.
Oh, it's spicy. Water.
Yeah.
Sits on a water balloon.
But they just start drinking the water normally and be like, man, this sucks. I gotta wait 45 minutes
for it to meet in the middle. Anyway, that's not what happened.
Not what happened. They don't do that. Okay, so one thing that actually did stick out to me is this had some of the coolest space exteriors of any of the next-gen stuff I've ever seen. It wasn't just stock shots of, like, if there was a Klingon, whatever, and the Enterprise was sort of sitting at each other, facing each other. They had, like, the camera would sort of move over the top of the Enterprise or the Klingon warbird, and it would, it was in motion. Or when they came up on the space station, the camera would kind of, as though there was, another ship attached to the camera.
Right.
Or camera attached to the ship. They were moved, they were dynamic. It was so cool.
Right. No, actually, I hadn't even noticed. So, yeah,
it's cool. Go back and watch it.
Right, I will actually. Well, because I remember I commented about that on Enterprise. When they had that great shot of like the camera going over the hull.
So anyway, Geordi falls in love with her, and I'm thinking to myself, like, she's only responding because he's an advocate. She's creating an advocate for herself, right?
Right.
A high level advocate. And by the way, can you think of a more inappropriate situation where you have a murder suspect and Geordi, a high level commanding officer, is essentially hitting on, making out with, supposedly having sex, I'm assuming, with the murder suspect, and then defending that murder suspect? Like, is there a situation where this could get any worse?
I know. And in addition to that, like, there was no way that kiss couldn't have severely negative implications. Either he kisses her and she has to go along with it because she's the only one who believes him. I felt sorry for Geordi because he just can't catch a break with women, you know? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They're either unavailable. Well, he does it to himself because he tends to fall in love with unavailable women.
Well, he tends to fall in love with recordings. Yes.
Well, he can just play them back over and over and over again. You never.
I love this moment. Right. Well, so this is why I was saying, like, this episode is so disappointing about, like, just reading the back notes to it. This episode was going to, like, first off, give Geordi much more backstory about, like, his upbringing and all that kind of thing, other than that throwaway line about how he traveled a lot and so he picked up lots of languages, which we're 6 years into this show and he's never once showed any of that. Nor does he
really show it here. I think he says one word or one phrase
he says
that he could have, like, Googled.
Right. Yeah, like.
By the way, the second somebody says, "Oh, I picked up a lot of languages as I was traveling," that's when you start saying, "Oh, really? Tell me something in German." Or tell me something in Italian. Like, let's have a conversation. I happen to speak Italian as well. And then you continue the conversation and you see how true it is, right?
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, so he says that phrase and and then she says Amrael to him, like, when she leaves him, and then he just kind of mutters that word to himself. He's like, Amrael. Like, there's another word that I just learned.
I'm picking up languages left and right.
He thinks words are languages. Yeah. I know over 1,000 languages, right? But so there was that little throwaway line, but he was supposed to get so much more. And this episode was actually, when it was originally being written, it was supposed to end with, like, before the killer was the dog, it was going to end with him keeping the dog, and he would have a dog for the rest of the series. And
oh God.
So, you know, it just would have been more of a character moment for him. And they realized that all of the commanding officers were single, and they kind of realized that they didn't want to convey that, like, in the future marriage was kind of frowned upon or not really accepted or whatever. And so this was the episode that was going to give Geordi a significant relationship. And then through the course of no, with Aquiel.
Oh, I missed that. I mean, you switched.
Sorry, I didn't realize I had to explain that. Now talking about the female who he's, like, dating in the episode, it was actually supposed to last, like, through this episode, and she was going to be a recurring character and actually be part of the show, like, as guest starring every once in a while, and, like, he would have a relationship, and it would supposed to turn into a marriage.
They wanted to add another character to this. I mean, I can see why they didn't. It would have just taken so much time. It would have been like O'Brien's wife, right?
Well, yeah, like, it would have been just like that. It would have been like Keiko, where she, you know, she's on the show and she's on the ship, but she's not. The show isn't about her, so she only shows up on the episodes that are O'Brien focused, and when it has to deal with him, like, being at home, you know. So it could easily have been where she was only on, like, 3 or 4 episodes through the rest of the season, but she just, like, he talked about, like, some dates that they went on, kind of like the twins on Voyager.
Right. Now, what would have been more interesting for me is if the person who was the dog, if that was the character. Not necessarily that Geordi had a relationship with, although that would have been awesome too, but that was a character who spent some time as a dog and some time as a person, but still had to wear his communicator as a dog and would, like, have like, you know, bridge duty as a dog. But he was accepted as an intelligent being.
Right.
But it was a dog.
Yeah, clearly. Well, and just he occasionally had to eat somebody. But it just this episode could have been so much more for Geordi, and instead it just added fuel to the fire about the fact that Geordi falls in love with digital characters and he has no luck with women.
Yeah, I kind of blame Geordi for that. He seems, based on this episode and the other episode where he falls in love with the engineer who I don't remember her name, but that person. That he makes a date for. It's very awkward. He seems very emotionally just sort of not 100% mature, I guess. Sort of like he just when you immediately fall in love like that, like it's not something that adults do that often.
Right.
And he does it super often.
I think it's not even that he does it super often. It's just that he does it more than any other character. And so it's just kind of become his character trait.
Well, and who knows how much we don't see.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
This is happening almost every other day, I'm sure. That's why when Riker talks to him about it, he's like being kind of like, supportive, but in a way where it's like, it's like, are you sure you should be starting a relationship with the murder suspect?
Right.
Like, is that it's not a great idea.
Well, and to be fair, Riker's like speaking from experience.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
true.
Well, and just thinking about like Geordi dating and like his dating profile, do you think when it says like eye color, do you think he puts NA?
I don't know. That's a good question. Or just white,
right?
Or don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, or
prefer not to talk about it.
Gold Cyclops
or air filter. He just gives. You know how air filters have a code? It's like R95. That's what he puts
for eye color.
HEPA.
All right. Anyway, where are we in the episode? Yeah.
So there's a point where the Doctor starts to put it together about the coalescent life forms.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the goo sort of comes out and touches her hand and then, I guess, dies. But before it dies, it turns into her hand. And this is the moment I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is so cool. Like, this is science fiction at its best.
Right.
You have a life form that you don't know what's going on, but it does this really interesting thing. Like, I think in a lesser science fiction show, another Doctor would have just appeared and plopped out of the petri dish, and they would have been talking to each other, and that would have been the episode. But in this one, they were a little bit more subtle about it.
Right.
And it was cool. And it was like a mystery. It's like, why did that do that?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Thought it was cool.
I didn't think that it died, which is not even a point that I considered, but I think you're right. Like now that because the hand just froze. And
that's sort of in the kind of really cool last little bit of the episode where they're cutting back and forth very quickly between Geordi and Aquiel,
mm-hmm.
and the rest of the crew sort of trying to figure out what's happening.
Right.
And it's like very quick back and forth. Like doesn't happen very often in the show.
No.
And it sort of culminates when they catch Geordi having sex with Aquiel.
Well, yeah, I'm being mentally stimulated. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a very advanced dildo that they were holding, but like it wasn't just meditation, right? There was something going on.
Well, and I've got to say, like her line, like it should have been during intimacy, not during love.
Yeah.
It was like during happy.
Geordi, would you like to make happy on the couch?
Nope, that still sounds too suggestive. It's like it would be like, would you like? Nope, not even that. Like,
Geordi's just like, nope.
It's just it would be like,
no.
Would you like to happy? No. I cannot think of a phrase where it's like, nope, I completely understand what you mean.
Geordi, we should make happy. Yes? No.
No.
No. No, we should not. You were under arrest.
Like it would be like, Geordi, do you happy?
Still no.
Anyway, yeah. So it was just just such a weird moment where like she said like it enhances like emotions, and it especially enhances emotions during love.
I don't like it when people use that word as sort of just a catch-all, just to sort of like it's like almost like an appropriation. Come up with a better word, like you said, intimacy, or make up a new word. We call it camouflage.
Right? Oh, what is that? A fancy dessert? Like, I'm excited.
Geordi, we will camouflage after dinner. See, that's more interesting.
Right.
And we will share love.
Oh, so I will. Wait, sorry.
No, wait, hang on. I gotta go.
Okay.
I gotta jump back. So when the doctor,
I gotta jump back in farther.
So the doctor is showing Picard the hand that was created by the goo, right? And she's like, "It's my hand down to the genetic code." And Picard's like, "It's very interesting. May I borrow this hand?"
Right. Oh, there were so many moments like where Riker is like, "Geordi, I've got to ask you," and he's like, "Yes, Commander." I'm like, "What? What are you about to ask?" Like,
oh yeah, there were a lot of those. I guess there were a lot of those.
But no, back even further. So I have a friend who taught their dog Klingon on so that way. The idea being, if you teach a dog a foreign language for the commands, then when somebody breaks in, they can't use the traditional commands to stop the dog because they're obviously not the right words. And if the thought being that if the person who's breaking in tells the dog to sit or lie down or something, and the dog knows that, by hearing those commands, the dog automatically thinks it's a friend. So by teaching it a foreign language, then you have that level of separation so that the dog doesn't understand what those words are, and they still see the enemy. Now, I'm pretty sure that my friend used kaplach as speak. So I got it in my head that kaplach in Klingon means speak. And so when Picard and the Klingon are ending their communicate with each other, they both go kaplach, kaplach, and I was like, what? But it could mean, like it's just a greeting or profanity.
Yeah, it's like ciao.
Yeah,
it's like ciao,
or it's your mom. Like
your mom, your mom,
your mom.
Yeah. Klingons might be funnier than we take them give them credit for. We don't know.
It's true. They're speaking Klingon. Anyway, so
Riker catches Geordi and Aquiel having sex, and it's very awkward for everyone. But let me make sure I'm still recording. Yes, but so they almost end the episode with like, yes, she did it. I don't remember what the details were. We're going to take her into custody.
Well, they were taking both of them because it was kind of about the time that the alien was going to shapeshift, which is super convenient, by the way.
Right.
But yeah, they were holding both of them in containment until one of them actually changed.
Right. And so there is this scene after that where it kind of comes down and Geordi's all depressed because he's in love with Aquiel and he doesn't know what to do with himself. He's with the dog. He's petting the dog. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, I gotta do something. So I'm gonna ask to see the duty roster so we can figure out who is going to order to euthanize the dog.
I actually thought that there was going to be something about him like picking up extra shifts to try and take his mind off of what Aquiel was doing.
Yeah.
So I was
both are equally
viable,
equally plausible. Yeah. And then the dog starts changing. I was like, oh, dude, like I didn't even see that coming.
Right.
I did not see the dog thing coming until like the second that the dog kind of barked or something like that. I was like, oh, like it wasn't a totally virgin reveal for me when the dog started shaving. But I was like seconds before that, I was like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
But that was like one of the best reveals ever. I did not suspect the dog, even after I said to myself, I have never seen a dog on this show ever, and will never see a dog on this show ever again. Right?
Right.
And I was like, this should be like the character that shows up on the bridge that eventually is the bad guy. Like in the show, it should have been that, but it wasn't. And so yeah, I was super impressed.
Just how it spun like that, and you just had no idea that it was coming. Yeah. No, I mean, me too.
Yeah. Like the dog, they didn't like have a scene where the dog was, rifling through the communicators, like trying to fit, or like going through the computer,
or eating somebody else. Yeah.
Right. Like they did not telegraph it at all.
No.
And it was really cool.
Yeah. The only way that they did was the fact that it was another being on the station.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And props to the show. A little bit of science fiction where Geordi tries to stun the blob after it has converted from dog to blob. And nothing happens. And so he has to up the energy, right? He tries to stun it.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't stun. He changes it and then he kills it.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Like that to me is what science fiction is all about. I know they say that, every episode. but it's like that's the detail that you want in a science fiction episode. He didn't just shoot it and a kill and it's done and that's the end of the scene. Like they went through they bothered to stay true to what actually happened earlier in the show.
Right.
Of like, I tried shooting it, nothing happened, and so I had to kill it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why the phaser was set on 10. And that's like that's a great callback. It's not really callback, it's just continuity.
Right. So the only thing that I will say is after he destroyed it, there wasn't a blob on the ground.
Right. You're right. No, that's a good point. Or maybe we just didn't see it.
Well, but it kind of
I'm
vaporized
apologizing
into
for
like
the
a red what?
I said, you see how I'm just starting, because I liked the episode, I'm starting to apologize for it. Like I'm starting to trying to fit it into my own narrative. What did you think I said?
Well, I heard you say apologize, and I thought you meant like as the blob is dying, it's like apologizing for everything it had done.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Like, forgive me.
Or I thought where you were going was that Geordi was yelling at the blob, apologize. Or I'm going to like, apologize.
Montfla!
And so we end the episode with, first of all, I was thinking to myself, okay, how is Geordi going to prove this? Because there's no more blob, right? They're just going to think that he evaporated the
killed the dog,
because he didn't want to deal with it, right?
Yeah. But I mean, the fact that the two people still survived and the dog is missing and they kind of figured out what probably happened.
Right. They skipped that part of how he proves it.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is.
But it would have been kind of.
Right. It would have just been all info dumping to the audience that already knows what's happening.
Right. Because they wanted to get to this last scene, which is where Geordi's like, hey, I can help you get, again, another very inappropriate thing for Geordi to do, which is like, hey, I can move you to the front of the line, basically is what he's saying. Because if you want to be on the Enterprise so we can have sex later.
Right.
And she's like, no, thank you. The murder charges were dropped, and so I no longer need you, which is what I took.
Well, yeah, it felt very much, I think that it was supposed to be like a sweet thing of like, I need to make it on my own, but it felt very much like,
a rejection.
Yeah. Like maybe later, which really means never, but
I'll call you.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's the end of the episode, but the music and just the tone of how they leave that scene makes it feel like a downer, even though it's a happy ending. I mean, Geordi doesn't get a girlfriend, but that's not what the episode was about.
Right. Not ultimately.
Did it feel like, it felt like a downer to me.
I could put in a good word.
It's an appealing offer, but I think I'd rather get here on my own merits. Don't be surprised if you see my name on that list.
The music must have been, it was designed that way, right? It was designed to kind of, because it was like a piano. It had this like sort of melancholic tinkle on the piano. I hate that word, tinkle. Why do you use it? Stupid.
Melancholy, moist.
Tinkle. I hate that word. What other word do I hate? Tinkle, moist.
Do you hate moist? So
pudding. Hate pudding.
So what if you use it like when you say like I'm putting this down? You're saying the same thing.
It's fine. Well, maybe it's the it's the substance that gets invoked if I'm saying like I would like some chocolate pudding, please. It's just gross.
I like how you emphasized the P that time.
It's like it's oddly sexual, like vaguely oddly sexual in a way, but in a gross way. I don't know. Let's not talk. Why are we talking about this? Why'd you say pudding?
I didn't. You said tinkle.
Ah! Let's...
I'm afraid of vowels. Oh? Why?
I'm going to make a list of words I'm not allowed to say.
No, I think part of it, well, this probably wasn't intentional, but, like, this is Geordi's MO, so it just ended on a downer because it was like, womp womp, Geordi's single again.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, but at this point we're used to it. Like, it's comedy now, right?
So the episode's like, ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
Like, that's how it should have ended.
With the Seinfeld bass slap.
Or more modernly, the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It ends on a weird melancholic downer.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's the end of the episode. So where do you come down? Is this, it's a crappy murder mystery, right? I felt like, in terms of that element of it, I felt like it, didn't really hit the mark for me, but I felt like it was a proper Star Trek episode.
So here was the thing about like it being a murder mystery. They were so frustrated because they had this idea and they wanted to do a murder mystery, but they had already shown that the tricorder could do so much that like they were like, we are making this have to be so complicated because otherwise they'll just walk in with a tricorder and be like, oh, okay, we know who did it.
Yeah,
they were like, we have to.
That's true.
Yeah, they were like, we have to come up with a mystery that is beyond the technology, and so this is ultimately what they came up with. And given the parameters, like that's not too bad.
Right. Yeah. I was totally fine. My favorite parts were the doctor parts, where she's sort of trying to figure out what's going on, and I first of all, I thought the whole episode when it first started was going to be somebody watching logs episode, which I feel like happens every once in a while, where we're forced to watch somebody give a log that's supposed to be sort of casual and personal, but we're supposed to glean specific information from these logs that somebody then puts together later. I just like, so boring. It's just so boring when they do that. And so I'm glad it wasn't that. Mm-hmm. But the whole Geordi thread I found less interesting than the other part, the B plot, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and then the moral ethical was just, definitely ethical. We're talking ethics here in a big way.
Super ethic with a capital E.
So, I guess this was an ethical, like there was definitely an ethical thread going through the episode, but like Geordi dove headfirst into one specific side. Like there was no, I don't know if I should do this. Right. Like it was very much.
Abandon all ethics.
Yeah. So, yes, there was an ethical thread. So, is that kind of the end of the discussion? Or when somebody takes a specific stance and there's no argument against it?
Well, I think there was a discussion. Riker did say, maybe you should take a step back.
Yeah, and he was like, maybe you should back off. Yeah.
And they had another scene where they were standing way too close to each other again. I'm sure you noticed. You had to have noticed it this time.
In the hallway?
Right? In the hallway. Yeah. He's super close to. But yeah, like, there is friction between Riker and Geordi, and
because she's alive now, and Geordi's already like got the inside curve.
Also, he's less attracted to her when he found out that she was already still alive, right? Like just a little bit. He still went after it, but he's like,
Well, he's like now I have to learn things about you. Like before, I knew everything about you, and that's hot. But now, like you're this mystery, and I don't want that. Like.
Well, and he was like 95% done with his holodeck program, starring the person.
Damn it! I have to start over.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, yeah.
So you're saying not enough ethics?
Well, the ethics are so strong in this episode. I felt like it was kind of screw the ethics. I'm doing what I want. Like I get that there's all this evidence against you, but I believe you. And consequently, I'm going to be close to you, like because I believe, like he didn't have any inner turmoil of like, or if he did, I guess he did a little bit. He just didn't really listen to it.
All the evidence pointed that she was guilty.
Right.
He just didn't want her to be guilty. It's not like he believed her because of some other piece of evidence that made it more ambiguous.
Right. Well,
he just liked her.
Right, and that's kind of what I'm saying. Like he wasn't internally conflicted against all the evidence. It was just like, you're super hot, so I want you to be innocent, so I'm going to fight as if you are. Like, you know, she's like, you believe me, don't you? And he's like, yes, I do. And then they make out. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Right. So like, it wasn't even, I want to believe you. You're just, well, he did say this once. I want to believe you. You're just not making it easy.
Right.
But he never wavered. And I feel like that's where my problem is.
Yeah. He was full throttle, ready to defend her to the last moment. Right.
Yeah.
That was yeah.
So
yeah, I can see that. But there was a discussion. I mean,
yeah.
we can disagree, right? We disagreed with it. And in that sense, I think is where the discussion goes along.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and we just said, like, is there an ethical thread that runs through the episode? And boy, howdy, was there. So, yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I guess, again, I was sort of a half good episode for me, but it was definitely
I just
full
see
proper.
Right. I love the deep sci-fi, and I love when it's an ethical question. Like, for me, that's what makes Star Trek Star Trek. Like when it's literally a debate and they make a choice, but it's not necessarily the right choice. It's just what they felt to be the best choice.
Right.
And yeah,
there wasn't a lot of consequence for Geordi.
Right.
In his decision. That was, I guess, sort of a downer for me, is that he made the wrong decision in a lot of different points of the story. And, you know, he wasn't defending her because he believed that she was innocent. And it was that he was falling in love with her and couldn't help himself.
Right. Like, he wanted to believe that she was innocent because he was falling in love with her. Not the evidence was ambiguous enough that she could be innocent. Like, everything pointed to her being guilty.
Right. By design.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So we're agreed then.
Yeah, we're agreed. It's
a proper.
Yeah, it's a proper Star Trek episode. I mean, yeah, and the story is great. I wish that there had been more turmoil with Geordi. You know, kind of like the last episode with Kirk. Like, if there had been an actual consequence to his obsession.
Right. Well, all right. Well,
that's kind of cool.
I guess that's settled.
Yeah, 2 Star Trek episodes in a row.
Kapla.
Monfla.
Let's see what we're watching next.
Okay. Business as Usual. Episode 18 of Season 5 of DS9. Oh, great. Business as usual. I should have known with the name of business. Quark's cousin arrives at the station and offers a piece of his weapon-selling business, which would pay off all of Quark's debts within a month.
Oh, sounds riveting.
Right. The Quark-centric episodes are just so... Oh, you know what, though? This is DS9. That could be, like, the blurb.
Oh, yeah, this could be... Yeah. It could be nothing to do
right.
with the actual episode.
Yeah. Or, like, the B-plot is super fascinating.
Let's go find out.
All right, let's go watch it.